Welcome back to my channel, everybody. So we've finally made it to the review for the new Toxic Avenger movie. For those who have been watching my channel, and for those who are coming across this video and have not been watching for the past month, in honor of the new Toxic Avenger film, which came out August 29th, I had been doing a tribute to Troma Entertainment on my channel. So pretty much for the entire month of August, I had been making videos related to Troma Entertainment, talking about Troma films, showing love to Troma films. I love Troma Entertainment and Troma films in general. I love the Toxic Avenger. And with the new movie coming out, I wanted to show some love for Troma Entertainment. So that's what I did the past few months. And it was all building up to the release of the new Toxic Avenger movie. And so I figured it would be a good way to cap off this whole thing with talking about the new Toxic Avenger film. And this is going to be a more rambly review than my usual movie reviews. It's been a while since I've done a more rambly review for a modern movie that had just come out. It's been a while since I've done that, so I figured, hey, why not do this for the new Toxic Avenger? So, yeah, this isn't going to be the same as my usual movie reviews. We'll get back to the regular stuff next week, but right now, we're just going to have a more chill, relaxed video talking about the new Toxic Avenger movie. And I'll just say this right off the bat, I had a blast watching this flick. I had such a good time in this movie. Now, I was nervous when first going into the new Toxic Avenger movie because I love the original Toxic Avenger. I have a soft spot for the whole Toxic Avenger series, and I'll admit that the first Toxic Avenger and Citizen Toxie are the best movies in that series, and I'll admit Part 2 and Part 3 are a little weaker than those two, but I love the whole series. I love the Toxic Avenger. The first Toxic Avenger is one of my favorite movies of all time. And so I was nervous going into the new Toxic Avenger. I was cautiously optimistic. I wanted to see the movie. I was hoping I would enjoy the film, but I had that worry in the back of my mind because as Troma fans, you know, we know why we Troma fans love Troma films. The charm of Troma is, one, that it is an independent cinema. These are people making the movies that they want to make. And part of the charm of Troma movies is the fact that they go all out with being raunchy and having bad taste humor, but not in a mean way, in a fun way. They don't hold back on the violence, they don't hold back on the nudity, and they have that low-budget charm that I talk about so much on this channel. You know, Troma films are independent movies, and they're low-budget movies, not so much micro-budget movies, but they are low-budget movies, and they are working with a smaller budget and fewer resources, and that low-budget charm you see in them is, you know, you can see that the movie is a little rough around the edges in certain parts, but you can see the passion in the project and the effort put into these films, and knowing that these people are doing everything they can to make the best movie they make. That's what I'm talking about with that low-budget charm, and, you know, it has those raunchy charms and the bad taste charm and the violent charm and all that, which, when going into the new Toxic Avenger movie, I wanted it to be different from the original Toxic Avenger. This is a remake, and when going into a remake, I want it to feel different. I don't want it to just be the same movie again. I don't want it to just tell the same story again, but with updated effects and stuff like that. But what I wanted from the new Toxic Avenger movie was, I wanted it to have somewhat of a feel of a Troma movie. Now, this is sort of a Troma film, yes. It was not technically made by Troma Entertainment, but it's been kind of accepted into Troma Entertainment. I'm not sure what the budget of this movie is, but I have a feeling it was higher than the original Toxic Avenger. I have not confirmed that yet, so please take that with a grain of salt. I wasn't sure if it was going to have that same gritty charm to it. I wasn't sure if it was going to have that same feel of a Troma film, you know, given the way they're making this movie. I was worried it was going to be a little too clean, if that makes any sense. That's all I wanted. I wanted it to feel like a Troma movie. I wanted it to be different from the Toxic Avenger, the original Toxic Avenger. I wanted it to feel like its own thing, but I wanted it to have somewhat of a feel of a Troma film to it, as a way to respect where this movie came from. I mean, this is a remake of the Toxic Avenger, and you want it to show appreciation to Troma Entertainment, which this movie is, you know, springing from that era and that style of filmmaking. And I am very happy to say that this movie was a lot of fun. Like I said, I had a blast while watching this film. I was a little disappointed because it was only me and one other person in the theater watching this flick. Hopefully theaters everywhere else are doing a little better, because I want this movie to make a decent amount of money so we can get more Troma-related films and more Toxic Avenger-related stuff, because I think the Toxic Avenger deserves some love. But anyway, I will say the movie does feel somewhat like a Troma film, but not completely like a Troma film. It feels like its own thing, but still having that Troma-esque charm to it. It doesn't go as far in the bad taste humor as other Troma films, but it does have some bad taste humor. It doesn't go as far with the raunchiness as other Troma films, but there is some raunchiness there. Going into the film, you know, like I said, I was nervous first going into it, but I was relieved a little bit when I saw that Elijah Wood was involved with the film, and I was even more relieved when I found out that Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hertz, the people who made the original Toxic Avenger and are basically the head honchos at Troma Entertainment, I felt a little better when they backed the film, and they were producers on the film, so they were, you know, involved in some way. That made me feel a little better, and I did feel better when I saw Elijah Wood involved in the project, because he loves horror. We all know him as Frodo Baggins from the Lord of the Rings series, and he will always be known as Frodo Baggins from the Lord of the Rings series. But when you look into Elijah Wood, he loves horror movies, and he loves independent horror movies, and he's backed quite a few independent horror flicks. So when I saw that he was involved in the film, I felt a little better, because I'm like, it's like, okay, it seems like they're getting the right people involved in this flick. And I think they did a good job at making a new Toxic Avenger movie with a slight feeling of Troma Entertainment. Like I said, it doesn't go as far in the raunchiness and the bad taste humor as the original Toxic Avenger and Troma movies, but it still had it there. The movie is violent as hell. There is some great gore in this movie. Yes, there is some CGI involved with some of it, which is why I'm a little iffy on what the budget was, because there's some great practical effects in this movie, and there is some CGI thrown in that makes it a little rough around the edges, which, in a way, is kind of good, because it has a little bit of that low-budget charm to it, with the little moments that are rough around the edges with the CGI. But I was a little disappointed to see the CGI, but it didn't bother me too much, because it, you know, like I said, this is a lower budget movie working with fewer resources, so I kind of understood. Because you can tell that a lot of the money when it came to practical effects went to the makeup effects for the Toxic Avenger and other characters. I'm not going to have any spoilers in this video, or at least not any major spoilers in this video. But yeah, there is practical effects work done in the makeup effects and the costuming. Yes, so I'm willing to forgive some. I'm willing to forgive the CGI put into the gore effects, because it looks like they put the money towards something that is like towards the costuming, which is very important when making a creature feature style superhero movie. But yeah, the gore effects are good. There's some quality kills in this movie. There's some good villains. The characters are fantastic in this film. Yes, you don't have that over-the-top acting that you see in traditional Troma movies. But there is, like, there's decent acting in here, but it's acting with a slight over-the-top nature to it. All the actors involved in this film knew what they were doing. They were all in on the joke. It's like they're acting well, but they're doing good, over-the-top, cheesy acting. You know, I mean, it's like, it's cheesy acting. You can kind of tell it's being done deliberately, but they're hiding it so much that you don't notice that they're deliberately doing cheesy acting, which just makes the movie a lot of fun, you know? I mean, like, in a Troma film, you want over-the-top, crazy acting, and you do have some good, over-the-top, cheesy acting in this flick. I like the new design for the Toxic Avenger in this movie. I love the traditional Toxic Avenger design. You know, I mean, he looks like a mutated person. And this one, they go a little further with it in this movie, probably because they had more money in the project. But yeah, the Toxic Avenger in this one looks even more like it is a humanoid. He is a humanoid being, like clearly somebody who was mutated into this creature, but he looks even slightly less human than you would see in the original Toxic Avenger, and I think it works. Like, there's enough human in it and there's enough mutant in it that I think really works for a new design. And there is decent development of the characters in this movie. Like, in the original Toxic Avenger, Melvin, who originally becomes the Toxic Avenger, is this weaselly nerd in the that works at Troma, the Tromaville Health Club, and he eventually is the one who becomes the Toxic Avenger. There's nowhere near the amount of character development done with Melvin. There is a lot more character development in this movie with the Toxic Avenger, especially following Peter Dinklage's character before he becomes the Toxic Avenger and making us feel for the guy and making him sympathetic so that we're on his side when he starts tearing people apart. But the original Toxic Avenger didn't need that development because, you know, it was focusing more on getting us to the Toxic Avenger. This one is a little more of a traditional superhero movie, just a little bit though. So we're okay with the character development, and they really make us feel for the guy. In this movie, they make the Toxic Avenger a stepfather to a kid whose mother has just died, and you can tell their relationship is kind of on the outs, but he's trying to be there for him. He is the janitor at this health organization, this corrupted health organization, and the big bad basically is running this organization. Which is an interesting way to connect the Toxic Avenger directly to the big bad. And I'm not going to go into the details, but, you know, long story short, Peter Dinklage becomes the Toxic Avenger, and there is solid character development, and I'll admit, yeah, we are waiting for him to become the Toxic Avenger, because that's what we're here to see, but we're okay with the wait, because one, we don't have to wait too long, and two, the development of this character and the world building around the character is very good. And it sets everything up perfectly so that when he becomes the Toxic Avenger, we're ready to watch him rock and roll and tear people apart. So the setup is very good in this movie. But talking specifically about the Toxic Avenger himself, we have to give credit to the person playing the Toxic Avenger, and that of course is Louisa Guerrero. Now, yes, Peter Dinklage is, like, kind of the face of the Toxic Avenger before he becomes the Toxic Avenger. He, like I said, he does a good job, you know, in the role as the pre-Toxie, and he, of course, is the voice of the Toxic Avenger once he transforms. But Peter Dinklage is only in, like, the first act of the film, and then when he becomes the Toxic Avenger, the Toxic Avenger is now played by a stunt actress, Louisa Guerrero. And Peter Dinklage, yes, is the voice of Toxic Avenger, so he is still in the performance, and you can still say, yes, he is Toxic Avenger, but Louisa Guerrero is the one in the suit. She is the one wearing the Toxie costume. She is the one doing all the stunts in the Toxie costume. She's doing the fight sequences. She's doing you know, she is acting, even though it's Peter Dinklage's voice, she is doing the acting in the costume. And, like, she is the one wearing the costume throughout this film. The Toxic Avenger is in a lot of this film, and every time it's the Toxic Avenger on screen, it is Louisa Guerrero in the costume. And not to take anything away from Peter Dinklage, I mean, he does a good job in this flick, but Louisa Guerrero deserves so much credit, because, again, she's the one in the costume. And there's an extra element to her performance that I think is incredible. So, from what I understand after watching some videos and stuff you know, about the movie and looking into the movie, she spent a lot of time with Peter Dinklage to get his mannerisms. Not just his mannerisms in how he walks and how he moves, but in how Peter Dinklage speaks, so she can try to match the mouth movements with how Peter Dinklage's mouth would move. And yes, she is under all this makeup. And of course, it's one thing to play a monster with all this makeup on, it's another thing to act with all this rubber and latex and stuff all over your face and try to act through that. And she does a great job acting through the makeup. But she's not acting like herself through the makeup. She's acting like Peter Dinklage through the makeup. Like I said, from what I understand from the videos I've watched and the things I've seen about the movie, she spent a lot of time with Peter Dinklage to get his mannerisms, to try and walk the way he would walk, to move her mouth and do the facial expressions the way he would do those facial expressions. Which, for me, makes the performance even more incredible. Because Louisa Guerrero, like, when you think about it, with all the work she did to try to match Peter Dinklage's mannerisms in this suit, Louisa Guerrero is not just playing the Toxic Avenger. Louisa Guerrero is playing Peter Dinklage as the Toxic Avenger. And yes, Peter Dinklage is providing the voice, which is helping the connection. But, you know, trying to do the performance how Peter Dinklage would do the performance, so the voice matches more with the performance, the voice matches more with the mouth movements and stuff like that. That's incredible. Because again, it's Louisa Guerrero playing Peter Dinklage as the Toxic Avenger. And I've seen some reviews of this movie, and there are some people who think it's Peter Dinklage in the costume, because of how good her performance is at playing Peter Dinklage as the Toxic Avenger. In my mind, and like I said, not taking any credit away from Peter Dinklage, but in my mind, the way she is doing this is one of the greatest performances of the year. Like, for me, with the performances of the year, it's Michael B. Jordan as the Smokestack Twins in Sinners, and Louisa Guerrero as the Toxic Avenger, or to be more accurate, Louisa Guerrero as Peter Dinklage as the Toxic Avenger. That's just incredible to me, and I think she deserves so much credit for that. And yes, I will say it, one of the best performances of the year because of that aspect of it. And of course, she's going to get no recognition with this. I'm hoping she gets more recognition for it, but, you know, I mean, you know how these things work. Anyway. But yes, the performance as Toxie is so good, and we are really drawn to this version of the Toxic Avenger. And of course, when the violence starts, it's so much fun. And it's that over-the-top, gory kills that you want in a Toxic Avenger-style movie, or even a Troma-style movie. Now, there is a moment in this film where I truly felt that the people making it knew what a Troma film was, and were true lovers of Troma films, and were doing justice to Troma entertainment. It's this one moment in the third act, so this is a slight spoiler, but I'm not going to spoil too much. Now, this is going to sound very weird, okay? But hear me out here. Now, I was enjoying the whole film. I was having a good time and stuff like that, but then when we got to this moment, it's when I got that click in my head that, yes, this is a Troma-esque movie made by people who love Troma entertainment, and they are doing justice to Troma entertainment. I'm not going to go into details, I'm not going to spoil too much, but the Toxic Avenger goes to a concert. Now, there is going to be mayhem involved in this concert, but yeah, the Toxic Avenger goes to a concert. And a rock concert, and he gets up on the stage, and when he's on stage, there's this moment. It's like 4 consecutive things. One woman shows her breasts, and then another woman shows her breasts, and then a third woman shows her breasts, and then a guy shows his balls. That was the moment when I said, yes, this is a movie that understands Troma films. And I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. I said at the beginning, Troma films are known for being raunchy and over-the-top. They're not afraid to be gritty, have bad taste humor, have a lot of blood, and a lot of nudity. This scene felt like it would be in a traditional Troma movie. You know, you have 3 women flashing their breasts, and then you have some guy flashing his balls. And That is right out of a Troma film, right out of a traditional Troma film, something you would see in something like a Terra Firma or Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. And seeing that made me happy as a Troma fan. I know it sounds weird, but because I'm not someone who needs nudity for a film to be good, but I do appreciate when a movie is not afraid to have its nudity, and especially in a movie that is kind of in the realm of Troma entertainment. And to see this thing, 3 women showing their breasts and 1 guy showing their balls, it was that moment where it clicked to me where it's like, you know what? These filmmakers get it. They know Troma. They understand Troma, and they understand the kind of things you would see in a Troma film. And that as much as I was enjoying the movie up until that point as well, this elevated the movie a little more for me as a Troma fan. I know it's not going to make any sense, but I'm hoping my fellow Troma fans understand where I'm coming from with that. I hope you understand where I am coming from with that little random thought. I know I sound like a complete weirdo, but anyway, I am at least trying to be sincere. It is heartwarming in many ways, especially for Troma fans and Toxic Avenger fans, seeing these people getting together to make a new Toxic Avenger movie and seeing them put in all this effort into it, seeing them appreciate the project, seeing them wanting to make a good Troma film and do justice to Troma films. And then seeing all the effort afterwards of these people promoting the film, trying to get more people to see the movie, because this movie originally came out in 2003. That's when it went through its festival run. And we didn't get a theatrical release until 2025. And it was released unrated. That's not movies getting a big, decent-sized theatrical release as an unrated horror movie doesn't happen as much nowadays, but here it is. It happened. And that is, again, that's heartwarming to me, seeing these people come together for this project and then do so much afterwards to promote this project. You can tell how much they wanted to be involved. Lloyd Kaufman has been promoting this project. Peter Dinklage and Elijah Wood have been promoting this project, and they've been doing it going around trying to get people to see their film. And again, there's something heartwarming about that, seeing an independent film really go out there and try to promote itself in this new era of cinema where there's all these superhero movies and big budget movies and stuff making millions of dollars in the theater. They're starting to drop down a little bit now because of the fatigue of those kinds of movies. Seeing this little independent B-movie, this little independent unrated B-movie, a tribute to Troma Entertainment, coming out in theaters and going all out to try to get as many people to see this movie as they can. It warms my heart as a Troma fan and as a Toxic Avenger fan and as someone who loves to see independent movies do well. It warmed my heart to see this going on. So, I had a blast with this film. I had such a good time watching it. Toxic Avenger fans, go out and see it. You've probably already seen it. Troma fans, go out and see it. You've probably already seen it. But please support this movie. It is different from so many other movies we get in theaters nowadays. I mean, this is a Troma film. Or at least a Troma-esque film. And to see a Troma-esque movie in theaters, I want to see it get successful, because it is different from a lot of the stuff that we get in theaters nowadays. Support this movie. It is a lot of fun. I want to see more Toxic Avenger movies. I want to see more independent horror movies, or independent movies in general, get more notice. And I want to see more unrated movies get more notice and stuff like that. So yes, please support this movie. I had a blast with it. I'm sure you'll have a blast with it if you're a horror fan, if you're a Toxic Avenger fan, if you're a Troma fan, if you're a B-movie fan, if you just love fun, cheesy, schlocky genre films. Show some love for the new Toxic Avenger movie. I had a great time with this, and I'm hoping you will have a great time with it too. So yes. Those are my thoughts on the new Toxic Avenger movie. Finally putting a pin in this journey into Troma films that I've been doing for a while now. But yes, next week we will be getting back into our regularly scheduled movies, our regular style movies, reviews and stuff like that. and we're going to get to October soon, where I will be doing my yearly ranking series. So I hope you all enjoyed this little video. I hope you, if you've seen the new Toxic Avenger movie, please let me know what you thought down below. Go check it out if you haven't. I hope you have a good time with it. Yeah, that's about all I got to say in this rambly video. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all so much for the continued support, and thank you for putting up with me focusing so much on Troma Entertainment. I know Troma films are not everybody's thing, but thank you for putting up with my love fest for Troma Entertainment here. And thank you all so much for continuing to watch these little videos I do. I'll see you in the next video, and until next time, this is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die.